Can't get my words out. Well, hello there, perfect drafters. And that's the introduction to the video you'd get most of the time from BigBaldReviews. I've not seen him do a review for a while, so this is my attempt at trying to fill the void until he comes back wherever he is, but hopefully he makes some more videos soon. I've had my perfect draft machine now for about 3 years and started off with the original machine, upgraded to a Pro, but did keep the original machine. Every now and again we will have two set up for parties and things like that, but tend to stick to the Pro and enjoying that temperature control on some of the more exclusive beers. Now I can't promise to give the same kind of charisma as Baldy, but what I am going to do is just try and give an honest opinion of what I think of some of the kegs, and it's a good time to do it with the World Cup coming up. I've got a few kegs in to get through, so I should be able to do reviews fairly frequently as I start on some of those. This one is one I've not had on a keg before. It is Le Chouffe Blonde, an 8% strong Abbey ale. It's from Belgian and starting strong. I can't imagine any of my reviews are going to be as strong as this one, but there are stronger kegs out there, and the recommended serving temperature is 6 degrees. My personal preference with this kind of beer is just to set it that little bit warmer, just to get the flavours, especially for review purposes, just so I can give you an idea of what it tastes like. But probably in general I will knock it back down to 6 degrees to finish off the rest of the keg. Let you into a little bit of a secret. I couldn't handle this keg on my own. I've actually got it to share with a few friends and just sampling it for the sake of this review. I've been drinking this particular beer, Le Chouffe, in bottles. You can get them from Tesco's at £3.10 each, 4 for free. So if you was to get that deal, it ends up being about £4 a pint. On the Perfect Draft, it's advertised at £3.84 a pint, which does factor in your beer tokens and your keg returns, which I know a lot of people shouldn't think should factor in the price per pint, but I do use those things, so that's how I'm going to be rating it per pint. So it's £3.84 a pint, and if you didn't factor in those things, you're probably looking at about £4.50 a pint. And you'd really struggle probably to find a pint of Le Chouffe anywhere anyway. There might be 1 or 2 bars in your big cities that might sell this kind of thing, and I imagine you'd be paying at least £7 or £8 a pint for something like this. So even though it's on the more expensive side, the keg itself was £47.95. I'm one of those people who never buys a keg for that price usually, so my friends have helped me out with this one. They're chipping in, and we're gonna work on that together. I'm usually one of those who waits for the, roughly around £30 a keg, ideally less, but it does seem to be harder to get a good keg for less than £30 at the moment, unless it's non-alcoholic or Bud Light. Some of the more common beers that I'm not a massive fan of, like your Budweisers and things like that. So yeah, all in all, I'm thinking it's good value. I did take a trip to Rotterdam a couple of months ago and was drinking this in a bar there called the Budwin, and they were serving it, it looks like maybe like a 2/3 of a pint glass, and it was €7 there. So again, that kind of thing does make it seem like decent value, even though it's on the more expensive side for a keg. Like I say, we're treating ourselves this weekend. It's the FA Cup final, so this is our treat to ourselves to make it a bit more memorable or forgetful if it's as knocks us out as it could do with it being that strong. I'm not upmarket enough yet to get the merchandise with every keg that I buy, although I do have a decent collection. I've got Leffy glasses, Mahou, Stella chalices, like probably every Perfect Drafter has, from the various deals that they do. If you've had a machine for more than a couple of years, you've probably got some of the glassware, and I've been holding out for an offer on Le Chouffe, but I've just had to bite the bullet in the end because I was that desperate to try it. So I'm going to take it in halves. A, because it's quite strong, and B, because it's a keg I've bought for me and my friends for a couple of days' time. I don't want to have emptied it by the time they get round. So with that, let's get pouring. It's the first pour, ready-made excuse. It is a beer that's designed to be poured with a decent sized head. So if that happens, it's kind of a win-win situation, because it will be authentic to how it's expected to be poured. And let's go. I'm going to bring you a little bit closer. And I realise with that, maybe a schoolboy error, you probably heard the keg crack there. That often does happen, where straight away you just get a bit of foam. It has just come out of the van literally a couple of hours ago, and quite good that this Pro machine's managed to get it down to 8 degrees already, to be fair. I'm just going to let that settle and top it up in a moment. Oh, it looks like it could go over. When I have had it in bottles, I have noticed there is a little bit of domage, which is quite satisfying to see on your beer. And that head will keep the beer nice and fresh. But yeah, I admit that is probably a slightly bigger head than what we wanted, but I'm going with it. I want to get drinking. As you can see, a lovely colour. I was debating whether to pour it into a nucleated glass. This left one is nucleated. I'm not seeing too many bubs. I have it in bottles, and you have had a bit of the what we call the volks. Looks like a bit of a volcano at the beginning, but yeah, it does look, as you might expect, less carbonated and not as lively as you might get in bottles. The texture does look a bit nicer, I have to say, but let's see how it tastes. And I know Baldy generally has a bit of snackage when he tries his beers. That's something I did consider doing for today, but I'll be honest, we're just kind of squeezing this review in between some of other life's commitments, so I've foregone that today, but let's see how this video goes, and maybe next time, if I do make another one, we'll try and include a bit of snackage. I'll do a bit of research to see what goes with the relevant beer. As you can see, it's settled down quite nicely. There's just that bit of froth, bit of domage on the top there. I do quite like that style of beer. You can probably tell from my display here, like I've usually got a beer mat as well, that's Left. Left is one of my favourite beers. Unfortunately, they did down it by 0.6% a year or two ago, and it's not quite as good as it used to be. They always say these things don't affect the taste, but with Left, it definitely did. And was quite upset at the time, but have got a few kegs in the meantime and kind of got used to it. It's okay. Like, I do go to Wetherspoons a lot. That is my go-to beer when it comes to having a meal there, and I'll try and do a review for Left if this one goes okay. But yeah, hopefully they stop that kind of thing on the Perfect Draft now. It always causes some furore. It's quite bad publicity for them, but I suppose they're looking at a spreadsheet at the end of the day. If it still sells the same after 6 months and they're not having to pay as much tax or whatever, then it's worth it for them to do it. As a community, maybe we should vote with our feet more on that. I probably shouldn't be buying kegs. It just encourages them when they do that, but want the beer at the end of the day. Anyway, cheers. That is gorgeous, and I was comparing it to the bottles a few moments ago. You don't get as much bubs, as much that kind of fizz, but the taste is, I'd probably say, slightly better. The texture's smooth, and I think that's going to go down very nicely with my friends in a couple of days while we watch the match. I'm not sure I'll be buying it at $47.95 a time. I'll probably keep an eye out for an offer. If it ended up for, say, £40 a keg on some kind of offer with some other craft or expensive kind of beers, I'll probably be hoping this is in the deal and taking advantage of that. Let's give it another go. Yeah, I'm kind of almost thinking like it's a different beer to the bottle, to be honest. It just, there's flavours come through a lot more. Maybe because I have got it on a bit warmer at 8 degrees. There's kind of citrusy flavours. It's kind of appetizers, spices and citrus. That's always a bit of a 50-50 for me, whether I'm going to like it one way or another. Like, one beer I do see in pubs quite often that I'd describe as a similar taste is Blue Moon, but for me that's too orangey, too citrusy. I will have it because of the novelty, and when I do have it I just kind of remind myself that I don't actually like it, but I do like the style of beer, if that makes sense. And for me, that's just that side of not too citrusy, not too spicy, just, you know, it still tastes like beer, basically. I do feel like Blue Moon, especially when they put that orange peel in it, it just tastes like Fanta, basically. But yeah, this to me is just like a interesting tasting beer, and yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going through the whole keg in a couple of days. And with that, I can say I'd highly recommend the Chouffe blonde Belgian beer, 8%. Ideally, you'd get it a bit cheaper than £47.95 a keg. If you see it on an offer, I'd definitely snap it up. And I always like to get the glassware as well. If they do some kind of keg offer and you get the glasses, I'll be keeping an eye on that. And it's one of those for special occasions, I think. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this and try and keep my hands off it until the match. Cheers! Oh, and also, Big Baldy, if you do see this video and you get that itching to come back, you're well missed in the Perfect Draft community. I'm on the Facebook forum and I'm one of the people mentioning your name all the time. It's a really good introduction to the machine if you want to watch videos and get a flavour for what it's all about. It's a shame I can't match your charisma, but hopefully just having that extra opinion for some people is beneficial. Cheers again.